Welcome everybody. We are going to start in 30 seconds. Hello from Canada, Bucharest, Mexico, United Kingdom, Ecuador, San Agustin, Florida, Boston, North Carolina, Mexico, Germany, Zagreb. Welcome everybody. This is fantastic. Blessings from California. Michelle, thank you so much for joining. Ikana, Annalena, Sally, Merlin, thank you so much. So here we go. I think that probably we should start. So excited, Richard, welcome. I think this conversation, at least I'm so excited about what's going to happen, because every time we talk, it's so much wisdom, so much learning that we have to unpack. And today is going to be spectacular, especially the moment we are living in history, where the better we realize our purpose and what do we do in life, the better to serve humanity in many ways. So let me introduce Richard. Of course, you know him, most of you, but for those who don't, the way I like to introduce Richard is as a mystic, as a poet, and of course, the founder of the Gene Keys. Then below that is, for me, is a master, is a teacher, and is a guide. And I'm so humble always having these conversations, learning, and going deeper into unlocking what the words mean and how we feel when we have them in our beings. I'm the founder of the World Happiness Foundation and the World Happiness Fest. We celebrate happiness as a human right, and that's part of my synarchic purpose. Link to what we are going to be talking today about the center of the pearl sequence, which is how do we flourish and how do we maximize our impact. And in my pearl, I have celebration as part of that. So I think the synarchic point of view and the celebration somehow connect very well when I do what I do with the World Happiness Foundation and the World Happiness Fest. So with that in mind, thank you so much, Richard, as always, for joining.
Fantastic to be here, Luis, and I love our talks, and I love to reach out and meet members of your community and new friends. So I'm here, I'm at your disposal. So, and we also have Sally in the chat box. So if you have questions around the Gene Keys and things, and any of the logistics, Sally is there, and I think another friend, Ibby, as well, who both are working for the Gene Keys. So they can answer like questions that you have. Probably.
Fantastic. So why don't we jump all over? One question that when we've been promoting the webinar, we have so many times. It's like, okay, I go to all these workshops and people talk about purpose, and I get stressed because they talk about purpose as doing something. So I think that something that we learn from the Gene Keys is the difference between vocation and purpose. So can we define, can you please help us understand what is having a purpose? What is a purpose in life, by the way? And what is the difference or connection with what we do, our vocation?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's a lot about terminology, isn't it? In Gene Keys and my teachings, we have a lot of terms that overlap. like purpose and vocation, and also life's work, and so, you know, but they're all interconnected, really, because they're all about us flourishing in life and finding fulfillment. And so, you know, the thing that I think helps us release some of the stress around, you know, finding purpose. I mean, I know what you mean. I've been on one of these guys, and it was someone that said, you can find your purpose in under 5 minutes with my workshop, right? And I was like, okay, that's a different interpretation from how I view purpose, because for me, purpose is, and in the Gene Keys, when if you explore these teachings, you'll realize that your purpose is actually a state of being. It's actually your highest purpose. I call it your highest purpose, following, you know, the name of my book, Gene Keys, Embracing Your Higher Purpose, right? And so higher purpose is like something that we've come to the earth with. And but it's not something that we have to unlock outside us in the world, you know, so we can release that pressure, because our higher purpose is actually a state of being. So if you go, for instance, you go, and if you're working and playing with the Gene Keys profiles, you know, which you can get from genekeys.com, you can go now if you want, if you haven't done it before, get your profile, free profile, put in your birth data, and you'll get this profile. And you'll see that the sphere one of the spheres at the bottom is called purpose. And in that box, in that little sphere, are 3 words. And those 3 words kind of give you a clue as to your purpose. And so there's a shadow word, which is perhaps one of the things that gets in the way of you living your purpose. So it's a state. It's a stressful state. It's a victim state. It's a state that makes you get distracted with the outer world in some way. And so the whole notion of these teachings is that as we come back inside to ourselves, and we come into a place of rest inside ourselves, that's when we contact our purpose, because it's in the body. Our purpose is actually deeply imbued in the DNA of ourselves. It's in our body, but it's not a thing to do out there. It's a state of being. So when you look at your purpose, you'll see those 3 words. There's a gift, and then there's another word called a siddhi, which is a Sanskrit word meaning higher purpose or enlightened realization. You know, so those are big kind of lofty words. Like, for instance, mine is timelessness. What's yours, Luis? You remember your purpose, Gene Key, just for example?
Oh yes, of course. Yes, it's synarchy.
So yours is synarchy. So that's another lofty words. What you have to unpack these words. Like, you're here to manifest something. But it's through your presence rather than through any doing. It's what happens around you when you've come really deep into your being and into your body. So really finding your purpose is actually about kind of not being distracted by doing, and actually coming right into the core of ourselves, our core stability. And that's where we access the sense of deep purpose. And purpose is also, higher purpose is always selfless in some way. So there's a question at the heart of the universe, you could say, that activates and unlocks our higher purpose. And it's, how can I be of the greatest service to the whole? That is the question. You know, how can I be of the greatest service to the whole? And when we ask that question inside ourselves, and we go on asking that question, and in fact, we build our life around that question, that's when we come into that sense of higher purpose, because it emanates from that question. And there's no kind of quick answer. In fact, there is no pat answer to that. It's not like, oh yeah, well, I'm here to bring, you know, build this, you know, and then make that happen and make $1 million and, you know, help those people over there. It's not like that. You know, for some people, it's just, you know, it might just be being a gardener or being a mother. When I say just, by the way, that I don't mean that as like not equally important to anything else in any other role, because those are just roles. And what we do in life changes, you know, but what we are, what our being, that doesn't change. You know, so our purpose never changes. It's just sitting there waiting for us to unlock it, right? And when we unlock it, we relax. We deeply relax because it's a field of relaxation. And that's why, in a way, I kind of jokingly call this making money by mistake, because if you are to make money, and if that's in your destiny and your dharma, it comes as a byproduct of you contacting your higher purpose. So it doesn't come, so if you put it the other way around, which is what most people do, because you feel like, okay, I'm here, I want to find fulfillment, so I'm going to aim at that. And I set myself a goal and I want that to happen because my heart's dream is to make that happen. And then you set about that task, and whether you succeed or whether you fail miserably, you're going to, even if you get to the top, you're going to find actually that fulfillment isn't at the top. And that the whole journey, even though it may have been a great learning journey, and that's not to discount it, it didn't provide you with a sense of higher purpose, because you have to you have to find the service first. And then if you follow that, then the byproduct is what you need. You get the resources you need, because it crystallizes around you. It crystallizes around that purpose, because that purpose is seeded in you. It's like a seed. It's like an acorn. And inside each acorn is this incredible oak, but it's just hiding in there. So when we contact that purpose and we water it with our awareness, with our relaxedness, with our, we contact it every day inside us, and we sink into it in our body, and we discover it, then the purpose, one of the things you mentioned, the word vocation. Vocation is a thing that then is called out of us. So the purpose allows us to ground and then get the roots down. And then once those roots are in, the branches start to come out, and that's the vocation, and that's our life's work. That's when the doing starts to emerge, the correct doing. And one of the funny things about purpose, in a way, and fulfillment and earning money and all of that, is that, according to the teachings of the Gene Keys, and particularly this teaching called the Pearl, we're not all designed to make lots of money. Some of us are, and some of us aren't. We're designed to be fulfilled, right? And some of us have, fulfilled not by money, but we're fulfilled by different kind of aspects of life fulfilling us. So it might be through people, it might be through given a position of responsibility and love and service, or it might be through simplicity. If you have one of those keys, if you have the simplicity key, then if you had lots of money, it would be unfulfilling, because you'd want to get rid of it, because you actually are a person that actually wants things simple. You don't, because lots of money can make your life very complicated. It can give you comforts, but comforts don't provide fulfillment. Fulfillment is of the spirit. It's deeper. It's not about comfort. So we often mistake comfort for fulfillment, and deep spiritual fulfillment is like, it's unique to each person. So that's why I'm sharing here about the Pearl sequence, because when we, and I've answered, I've gone off in lots of directions, but I'm tying it all into this one teaching that embedded inside each one of us is an algorithm for prosperity. That's what this Pearl is. It's your algorithm for your style of prosperity. And it might not be what your mind kind of conjures up. Like your mind might conjure up, I'm going to be fulfilled by this and that and this and that. And actually the mind doesn't really know. It just makes that stuff up. And yet, the algorithm is just sitting there waiting for us to unlock it. And then it comes, but it comes as a byproduct of us asking that deep question of service. So anyway, I guess that's my opening.
Wow, I'm loving it. But I love it as well. And I invite everybody to get the full perspective, to actually do your hologenetic profile, because that way you are going to get it. And I'm looking at mine now. In this case, That's why I wanted to start linking life work, vocation with purpose, because I feel that we all need to know that. I didn't know about my being purpose until I did the Jenkins, and I've been talking about purpose 4 years at the corporate level, coaching teams, and normally people confuse purpose with goals.
Yes.
This is my goal.
Yes.
When I went into the gene, and in this case, the purpose gene, which for me, the gift is teamwork. The shadow is interference. And the city, the essence, is synergy. And I saw my line 5, which is voice frequency. I was like, relax. Because what you say is, yes, you relax, because I say, wow, I'm probably living my purpose now. And then, and we can talk later about the importance of relationships and the Venus sequence between the pearl and the purpose one, or the genius. That's what all makes sense. But let's unpack a bit more. So we basically started with purpose, vocation, life work. But today we are going to be talking about making money by mistake. And something that we introduce as well is this concept of kindness economy. So can you go deeper into that route? What is the kindness economy, and how do we make money by mistake, understanding our vocation and purpose?
Yeah, I borrowed the term kindness economy from a business strategist, a woman. I forget her name now, and she's written a book about it actually. But I liked the term. I thought it was a really good term, and it's a value-driven economy. It's a kind of new way of looking at the world. It's a new way of really considering our relationship and our it's an essential collaboration is an essential component of the kindness economy. And actually, if you go back to early humans, and I'm not kind of glorifying early humanity, but if you go back to the very early societies, they ran on what was called the gift economy. They ran on what's called a communal altruism, where there was this, it is a simpler society, so it was easier to do. But if there was someone that had a gift of making fire, they would make fire for other people. And then if someone would cook, they'd share their skills and gifts. But they wouldn't necessarily trade them. That's what we're into now. We're into trade. They didn't trade them, they just shared them. Because that was that, if your purpose, if out of your purpose, your vocation is that you're good at one thing and you have a particular genius for one thing, then you would just share it with everyone, even other tribes coming in and out. That was your thing. That was your truth. And that actually creates this field that we call synarchy, or which is like a higher harmony that operates, that's self-organizing. So the kindness economy is putting that question at the core of your values, at the core of your business, at the core of your community, at the core of your nation, at the core of the world. That question of how can I be of the greatest service to the whole? And it is a question that every single one of us has to ask. If we're interested at all in fulfillment, if you remember nothing else that I've said today, take that question away. Go deep inside, ask it over and over and over again. There's no, as I said, there's no mental answer that's going to come. Just living the question, actually is what, if you live with that question inside you for long enough, it begins to manifest, it begins to flower. It just rises out of you. Life choreographs around you what the things you need. Notice there's a question in the chat box about how do I know how much money I need? It's like, you don't know how much money you need, but it shows up. The exact amount that you need shows up. So if you have an algorithm of prosperity that is to influence vast amounts of people, then you're going to need vast amounts of resources, and they'll come through the networks of people that you connect through specific choreographed connections in the kindness economy. And what you'll find also is that I mean, I find this in my life. I don't know, you probably find the same, Lewis, and probably some of others. When you put out that question into the world, your service, like that's your core intent. And it really is. It's not something else. It's not it's not a way to get more money, or it's not a way to get something for yourself. That's all byproducts, right? If you really put that out, you engage similar forces to come to you, so you find specific people that show up in your life that are on the same frequency. They've also asked the same question. You don't draw in corrupt people. I mean, unless there's a specific trickster energy that you need to kind of sharpen with that, because anything's possible. But you draw in the exact energies that will make that expansion possible, and even inevitable. So, but then, as I said, it's like, come and look into your pearl sequence, and you'll begin to unlock and unpick the kind of intricacies of how are you designed to prosper, but essentially, if you begin with that question, then life supplies the answer. And that's what I mean by the kindness economy. The more of us ask that question inside ourselves, and we really live our life according to what flows through us out of that question, that selfless question. I call it the Grail question, actually. In the Pearl teachings, I talk about the Grail, the Holy Grail. I'm a lover of mythic lore, and the Holy Grail and the quest for the Holy Grail and King Arthur and Percival and all those stories are a really good symbol for this kindness economy, because the Grail represents our service to the whole. And in the story of Percival, who's the seeker of the Grail, he has to find the Grail question. That's in the story. It's like, what is the question of the Grail? And he goes through all these, trials and things to try and find a question. And finally, he realizes what the question is. And once he's asked that question, the Grail is his, and it was always there. So it's a beautiful symbolism woven into that old tale. And yeah, so but I'm, like, if you begin with that question, you're beginning with abundance, and I have another saying which I share quite often, which is spiro ergo prospero, which is Latin, and it means I breathe, therefore I prosper. Right? And it shows us a couple of things, really. It shows us, that our breathing is deeply connected to our prosperity. Many of us, if we are striving for, like you said, for a goal that we mistake for our purpose, then we're not breathing deeply. We're kind of reacting to life, and we're in a slightly pressured state. We might be in a very high pressured state of anxiety because we're trying to get something to go a certain way that our mind thinks it wants it to go. And we might even succeed in that. If you really push hard enough and you have the skills, you can make that dream of your mind come true. But as I said, when you get to that level of success, do you have fulfillment? It's very unlikely, because you haven't asked the Grail question first. The Grail question has to come first. So in every business out there, this is the question that a business now has to ask. And it's quite tricky, because if a business has started off in one direction without asking that question, you kind of have to do a whole load of reverse engineering in the business to go, well, we've gone in a direction that's actually not serving the world that much. We're actually drawing huge resources to get to this, to continue this growth. So when a business asks this question, it has to completely reframe its reason for being. And it's a really exciting journey to go on. I mean, it's obviously much easier in a new business because you can ask it right at the beginning. But in a big business that's already grown, it's a big deal. You've got to kind of ask that question at every level, and you'll find that you've set off in lots of directions that are not feeding the whole. They're not nurturing the whole. So the kindness economy is to nurture always, to consider every aspect of the whole: sustainability, ethics, fairness, justice, social justice, all these things that are being talked about now are aspects of the kindness economy waking up, because humanity is just on the very periphery of asking this question, because we've realized, that was the other side to the Grail story, is that he gets lost in the wasteland, and we are creating a wasteland around us. We're lost in the wasteland, humanity. So each of us as individuals is a Grail seeker. And as each Grail seeker comes online and finds their individual Grail, that Grail, what the Grail represents is ultimate abundance. It's the cup that never runs out. It's always overflowing, which is what's represented by this teaching called the pearl. The pearl is the endlessly overflowing aspect of the core of our consciousness. And it's embedded in every life form. It's not a kind of piece of paper. It's an algorithm embedded in the whole of creation. It's in every cell that's alive, everything. In a bacteria, it's in a tree, it's in a plant, it's everywhere, it's in an animal, it's in all, in every single cell is this algorithm for prospering. I breathe, therefore I prosper. If you're breathing, if you're pulsing, like all life does, you are prospering, and so that's the beginning, like the gratitude of I'm just alive. So many of us, we're quite, I'm going on, Louis, so I will pause in a moment. But many of us are worried about the state of the world, and we're worried and we're anxious, and it's quite, it's very understandable, because, we worry about where things are heading. And yet life, if humanity dies out, I think we all know that the earth will just come back alive again. After the earth has hundreds of millions of years. It has a timeless life cycle, not timeless eventually, but it's like it can rejuvenate itself, and it will rejuvenate itself quite quickly. So even if we make a complete hash of things and we die out, Gaia will just restore herself, because every single cell of her being is designed to do so. This is why when you look at those wonderful David Attenborough programs, and you see the interconnectedness of all life, and you learn how it all moves through us in our gut and our intestines, and you see it's like even we can't actually destroy it, really. And even if we were to blow up this planet, it exists everywhere in the cosmos. We're not the only place where life is. How can that possibly be the case? The life is abundant throughout the cosmos. It's abundant throughout nature. So it has to be abundant everywhere, because it's the code. If you've got the code in one place, the code's everywhere. And that's like DNA. DNA is the code. And although there may be variations of DNA in other systems, it's still got that heart of prosperity. Yeah. So anyway, long answer, but lots of strands.
Oh my goodness, I'm loving it. I'm thinking about this book. It's a genetics, Spanish genetics, who said life is made of 4 letters. And the whole description of life is 4 letters, and how you go into that. And now the image of the volcano in Spain, Palma, came to mind, because now there you have new land. And that new land is the newest land on earth. And it's happening right now, and it's moving. And something else that I listening, and when you mentioned kindness economy, relates so well to the concept of happytalism that I've been working on for so many years now, which is a new state where we can really flourish, because it's based on kindness giving economy, but it's more the system, it's the synarchic system that we talk about. So I'm loving it. Why don't we go deeper into the code, into the pearl? Mm-hmm. Because something that that you learn when you go into the journey of the Gene Keys is that there are different sequences. And now we invite you all. There's going to be a new retreat focused on the pearl sequence, which is giving us kind of the keys to understand our life work, our vocation, our culture, the culture that is part of where we work. but you call this the sequence of prosperity. So can we talk a bit more about how do we move from purpose to the key to prosperity, understanding what are the elements of this sequence?
Yeah, I mean, you could share yours if you want to put it on the screen, Luis.
Okay, let's do that.
If you don't mind. And then we can like give examples and I can show people what it looks like. Are you live on can you put the slider across to the pearl?
The slider.
You see the little blue, beneath the profile. Oh, yeah, sure. That's it. Yeah, exactly. Perfect. And I don't know if you can make that a bit bigger.
Yeah, I'm going to try.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's, we're looking here at a two-dimensional image, obviously. And, but it represents this force that I've been talking about, this abundant force that's in the cosmos, that's in every single one of us. And it's kind of waiting for us to engage it in some way. And so it represents this energy I call syntropy. And syntropy is the opposite of entropy. Entropy is wastage. It's where energy it leaks, and falls away into chaos. And that's the real meaning of entropy. But syntropy is the notion that in a closed loop system, if you close the loop, then you have eternal energy generated from within the core. So when you look at those 4 spheres, I don't know if you can make them a bit bigger, Luis, but
yeah, I tried what I can.
As big as you can get. Okay.
Yeah.
And when you look at those 4, those 4 spheres, you're looking at like, that's great. Even a bit more if you can. And then so you're looking at a flow of energy around the triangle. And the pathways have names. This is in your profile if you haven't done that. So I mean, you can go down the side, Luis, and switch on the pathways one. So you see that little one that says pathways and it says off. Yeah, perfect. So if you come back to so there you can see like these pathways. If you start the one with the number 60, that's called the Sphere of Vocation, right? So this gives us a clue about our vocation. Like what is the energy field that is moving through me that wants to kind of begin my journey of flourishing? What does that look like, right? And so the first line you see is initiative. It moves from the bottom across. So it all begins with initiative. So that's the beginning of the sequence. So when we've kind of asking that question, then life starts to generate responses, and those responses call initiative out of us. So we feel, a natural response to something that comes to us, and we take the initiative. We have to then go out. We have to make a step across a threshold. And it always takes courage to take the initiative because you don't quite know what's going to happen. So you have to take a bit of a risk at the beginning of the journey of flourishing. Everything, all life has to take the risk. It has to smash through the egg, the little chick, and come out into another realm. And then it's in that realm. And that's where everything begins. And so I mentioned the numbers as well, just so for people that don't know gene keys, that's the number of the gene key in there. So gene key, there are 64 gene keys. There are these archetypal codes. They represent our DNA in some respect. We have 64 codons in our DNA, and they're archetypal ways of understanding them. So you have number 60, and so that has a specific energy that's about limitation at the shadow. So it's about breaking through limitation and then creating initiative out of that limitation. So, and that's about taking a risk, breaking out of the limitations of your surroundings, your childhood, your conditioning, the mind, language itself, anything that's a structure that you want to kind of bend and break and open up out of, in order that you can then generate an energy that hits the culture, right? And the culture is your surroundings. The culture is your natural community. That your fractal, if you like, your tribe. Your business team, if you're in a business. So if you would start a business with this pearl sequence, you know, wonderful to take this to teenagers, for example, and you just talk them through, this is how your life is going to pan out, you know, through these themes. And this is the step you've got to take. You're going to have to break out of a structure. You're going to have to take the risk into a new initiative. And then the culture is going to respond. And it's going to respond through that 34th gene key, you know, and we also, you know, there are also lines here that if you switch the little line symbol on, they give an additional piece of kind of the storyline. So I won't do them all, but I'll give you an idea. There's only 6 possible lines. So you have that gene key 34, and then the line is 5, and the line 5 resonates with the whole of society, right? So it resonates with the world, with the globe. Line 1 is like the entrepreneur, the individual. You know, line 2 is the partnership. It's forming partnerships. Line 3 is small units or families or small businesses. Line 4 is networks. Line 5 is society at large. So we know that, Luis, you know, you are someone that when you break out of that structure and take the initiative, then you're going to impact the world. You're going to impact society through a big idea, because that's the 5th line. The 5th line is like, it reaches out into the culture and it opens up hearts. You know, it begins to open up pathways, not necessarily hearts. It just opens up possibilities and people. And the 34 is about, you know, the gene key. So you can add, you know, you have to layer in the colors of what the meanings are behind these codes. So that's a bit of a bigger journey, you know. So I've written a big book about about all the gene keys so you can understand those archetypes. But that one's about strength, finding inner strength and letting go of force, you know. So it means you don't need to force anything. It means that, you know, strength is flow. It's natural, it's easy, you know. So you build a strong cultural field around yourself, which you have. You know, and it's even the highest level is majesty. It means it becomes majestic. It becomes really effortless. And all these people, perhaps leaders, start to come to you and they start to kind of connect with you. And then your idea begins to move through them out into the world. You know, your initiative moves through the culture out into the world, and it reaches deeper than you could imagine. And so these are just the kind of, I'm just trying to unpick a little bit of your algorithm to give people a flavor, and then it goes up to growth, because then it starts to grow. When the culture responds, your initiative really grows. It takes off. It multiplies. This is the multiplication aspect of consciousness, and so this is incredible. It can be very exciting. It can also be very dangerous, because unchecked growth starts to consume, as we know, it starts to consume the resources about, and that starts to drain energy. It starts to cause entropy, right? So growth is a part of life, and if you're looking at this as a business or as a person, you're going to grow this idea or this dream or this vision or this vocation. But then the third part is the third arrow from the brand back down to the vocation is called service. So you have to put the growth back into service, it has to fuel back to the vocation, back to why did I start this in the first place? And you notice that in businesses often, you know, people start with a great idea, and a selfless idea, but then it kind of gets so carried away because it's successful that they lose track of the original vision, you know, and they lose it. So initiative plus growth without service is what creates entropy. But when you add service and you link that back, you close the loop, you know, it feeds back into the core. That's why those pathways are called the quantum. And that's when the pearl inside us gets activated. And the brand, as I just mentioned, that the brand is how we share our voice with the world. You know, it doesn't mean literally our voice, but how our inner dream is kind of represented to the world at large. It's how others see our dream coming out. So the brand is actually getting our resonance exactly aligned with our vocation. with our selfless vocation. So if your resonance is not exactly aligned with with selflessness, you still may succeed. You may create massive growth, right? But that massive growth will, as I said, it will not feed the kindness economy. So it won't feed, may make your life quite exhilarating for a while or exciting for a while, but eventually it's going to start draining your energy. Because, as I said, like this is the story of history. Empires that finally crumble because they've grown, because they just consume the resources around them. You can take this at different levels. You could even apply this just to your health. We did Elon Musk recently, and I noticed that his brand was, you're going to find this funny, his brand, the gift is restraint, right? Now, most people don't think restraint is a gift, but actually the ability to stop the growth, and to fuel it back into the system is actually what creates like this quantum effect where everyone prospers, not just one person or one family or one group, but everyone. So unchecked growth can lead, and I'm not, by the way, judging him or anything. It's just a great example of like the city, the highest one of that for his brand is stillness. It's to actually just sit back and watch the energy as he feeds it back into the whole, as he, and so if I were to sit down with him and do his pearl, I'd say, look, man, if you start pouring all this back into society, back into the whole, all of it. I don't just mean I mean all of it, and you can tell that he sort of would kind of, as a part of him that wants to do that, because he wants to be of service to humanity, but he kind of has a mind understanding of that. And so it's like when you close the loop back down, you create, the pearl is something that dawns in us, and it's a surprise. You can't know how your prosperity is going to come or what it's going to look like, and as I said, it's nothing necessarily to do with money. So you have bounteousness, Lewis. So, and you have the third line, as you said, celebration. So if you have a third line there in the pearl, it's like, if you're someone that's here to celebrate life, if that's the core of your being, your algorithm, the suggestion is that you're going to draw a lot of resources to yourself, because you can't hold a good party without like spending quite a bit of money. Because you're going to need to kind of share it round. You're going to share your good fortune. That's what the third line is. It shares and celebrates its good fortune. And so that's like, gives you a little flavor of yours. And I haven't really talked about your gene key of the brand and stuff, but there's the gene keys, as you know, Luis, they're not like an instant thing that you just come and get an astrology reading and that's it. It's not like that. It's a journey. You got to unpick the weave of the journey. It takes time. You've got to contemplate these codes. You need to understand them mentally. Then you can let go of the mental understanding, and then they go into your emotional body, and you start to process them at a deeper level. And then as you come even deeper, you realize, oh my goodness, they are in my DNA. They are embedded in me, these principles. Even these shadows are embedded in us, and so we have to work through those shadows, those words like force and compromise and forgetting and limitation. Those are the shadow words in your sequence. So you can't skip over those. You have to get into them and understand them and unlock them, and then unlock the gifts. And then one's pearl starts to dawn, it dawns in us, and life starts to provide this flourishing energy, because you've closed the loop, because you truly are still asking that grail question, how can I be of the greatest service to the whole? And you don't forget yourself when the growth comes. You keep on asking the question. That's where people get this, that's where people lose their track whenever something grows. And many people, of course, don't even get to the growth, because they get stuck in the pathway of initiative in some way, because they're maybe initiating through the shadow energy. so if you're trying to force things, then you're limiting yourself in life, and then it just creates a biofeedback loop that then it sort of it creates, I guess, what the world would see as failure. It not necessarily is failure, because you can learn from it. So a failure can be turned into a success and a teaching, but it will feel like a failure. It will feel like you can't get off the ground, or you can't shift your energy. And so I'm talking about the pearl as though it's like only to do with money and business and stuff. And it isn't. It is also, but it's also to do with health. This is in your body. This is our body. Like, so if we don't unlock these energies, we create the issues in our health, because our body can't regenerate itself. So when we're looking at the pearl, we're looking at something that, as I said, it's embedded at all levels. You can also apply it to your relationships. You can apply it to anything. So it's a universal teaching.
Wow. So Rich, as Richard, you're saying, this is not just about looking at these numbers and these amazing words, is really going through the contemplation of it. I still remember when I did it for the first time. I'm somebody that actually gets sometimes into the forgetting, the shadow of the brand. And I realized that because when I saw the revelation mindfulness, I felt relaxed when I saw my gift was mindfulness. And I had the opportunity to get into revelation, but then I acknowledged very fast that I forget very often. And sometimes I thought it was good. But the way I like to forget is when I embody. So the only way, and now I've been through a couple of retreats, and I'm going to join the third one on the Pearl starting very soon. You have to talk about that. When you go into the journey of embodiment through contemplation, this is where I feel super, super relaxed. Because, for example, when I look at this, and this is just my personal experience, but I look at mindfulness as the gift, celebration as my pearl, and then moving from force to majesty through others. And I know that I have limitations, but I can be very realistic at the same time. So it's like probably means that I'm going to have a big party. It's going to bring a lot of money, but I'm going to be very realistic as well about what is going to be year 1, year 2, year 3, year 5. And that's probably World Happiness Fest is a good example of how we celebrate life, but we know that we are not going to get to 10 billion happy people by 2050 if we don't go one person at a time. So this is the way I bring this wisdom in, and this is the way I link this pearl sequence with what I call the purpose, the genus, and then the journey through our relationships. So that's my personal interpretation of this. And when I look at this that way, I feel relaxed. I feel like, cool. I have a question about time. It's like, when we look at this sequence, it doesn't matter if we are 5 years old, if we are 20 years old, if we are 80. I mean, how do we interpret depending on what time we are looking at this wisdom?
Yeah, I mean, it adapts itself to your life cycles because it's a constant throughout our life. There is also a kind of storyline to our lives, a natural storyline. So we could look and see, well, the most likelihood for most people living a harmonious life is that after their 50s, if they've lived if they've followed this question, sometime around their 50s and on, the pearl is likely to really open up and dawn, because that's a natural life cycle, right? But having said that, there are also kind of cycles within cycles. So even if you're like 90 and you start contemplating your own pearl, if you've only got 1 year to live, in that 1 year, you might live through that whole cycle of opening up that pearl. And then on your deathbed, the moment you die, you suddenly see it and it's dawned, so, or you're young and it gives you a kind of it gives you the landscape of your 20s or your 30s, you know, but then it goes on growing. And so you can apply it at any scale because it's a universal teaching. So it's really, you know, and as I said, it's instantaneous, like, because it's actually about breathing. So when we learn to breathe, we actually activate this pearl. But the pearl also helps us to remember to breathe. So it's a two-way thing.
We have 5 more minutes, Richard. Why don't we go through a few questions that I see here? One question I love is, how are we of the greatest service? Is there a standard answer of each of us has to find the Holy Grail?
Yeah, as I said, that's the journey of our lives. And your pearl sequence it does help, you know, Gene Keys are unique like that because they do show you these algorithms, but you have to kind of unlock the meaning yourself, you know, so they give you a language, but you have to unlock and interpret the meaning. And then you have to kind of live that meaning in your life. So no one can do that for you. And as you said, it's a journey of contemplation. It takes some time to really sink into that purpose that we mentioned at the beginning. And when you begin to feel that purpose and that grounding and that calm, perhaps inside, deep inside you somewhere, then it begins to kind of open up. All those pathways I just described begin to open up in your life, you know, culminating in these revelations of the pearl, of flourishing, you know, that go on flourishing, you know, in their seasons, different seasons. So we may have growth spurts, and then we have serving spurts, and then we have bursts of like absolute flourishing where we just suddenly interconnect. That's what the pearl represents, the collective flourishing of humanity. Yeah, so it is our future consciousness that's being looked at here. But
Wow.
That's why, you know, we do it as an online retreat, because we get to unlock over 4 months. You know, we've got 4 spheres to consider, you know, so we do 1 sphere, 1 month, you know, and we all travel it together, you know, as you know what it's like, a few thousand of us. And we're all around the world, and we're kind of unlocking it in this rhythm, even while we're just about our normal lives. But it starts to kind of seep into our lives, and our lives start to respond synchronistically to what we're contemplating. So it's a magical transformational process, you know, and I find it, you know, I try to explain to people what it's like being on an online retreat that lasts that long. And people don't have, unless you've done one like you have, Luis, you actually don't know. So, I mean, what was it like for you? You've got like 2 minutes to answer.
Yeah, well, it's exactly what you say. I mean, for me, contemplation, and your book is fantastic. When we look at different techniques of how to achieve a higher state, we can go through meditation, we can go through psychedelics, we can go through contemplation. For me, is really my favorite, because you have an active mind, and then you go from seeing one reality, something is gonna happen, you pivot and you integrate. So actually it's beautiful, because the more you become aware and relaxed, the more you are gonna see things happening. And then you have to say, okay, I do something with this, and I'm going to integrate this into my life. So I think that when you go through one of these retreats, you have enough time to contemplate, you have enough time to share with others, because you have multiple groups to share, and you can choose, and you're gonna meet people going one-on-one as well. But especially, it gives you time to be. It gives you time to contemplate. That's why I really love it. Yeah. And the last one, the ones focused on relationships, I mean, you probably even need more time, because 6 months was like, I mean, it's a lot, but we know that this is a life journey, and you have to integrate through contemplation.
Yeah, exactly. And in the retreats, just, you know, so people that never done one, we have a self-study course that we all travel together. It's a beautiful system called Learn Dash, so it's very well laid out. and very elegant. And it has, you know, all your audios, and your Pearl sequence is actually embedded into your course. So it's personalized to you. It's very clever. And then there are meditations with each of the pathways each month. There's a kind of collective meditation with music they're powerful. And then there are community calls where we meet together. If you enjoy meeting others, I mean, I always really recommend it, because you learn so much from other people's journeys. Because you get reflected, like, wow. And there are synchronicities in who you end up in a chat room with that are extraordinary. People make, you know, good friends for life sometimes. And then there are Q&A sessions with us, and there's a lot going on, I mean, in the background, and you can take it at the level that you feel able to, you know. So if your life suddenly gets busy, then you just drop you drop into that, and you give what is needed and what you can. And even after the retreat is over, you still have the full access to the material, to all the material. So you can just carry on going deeper and deeper and deeper into it. So it's important to kind of share those things if people don't understand. So, and they're high value, these retreats, you know, for what you get, it's like unbelievable.
No, it's unbelievable. I can witness that. It's really incredible. It's magic. I mean, this is magic. You know that, Richard. I mean, I still
always trying to tell people that. Your life will be different in 4 months if you do this retreat. But I can't tell you how.
But I still see the whole process as magic. I mean, just knowing that you can understand your purpose linked to your life work through contemplation is magic. So I think that you are really serving humanity. You know that, Richard. And I'm here to celebrate that. So this is a perfect combination. I see somebody here who says synarchy is part of the Pearl. Annalena, that's another connection there. So Annalena, we invite you to join the retreat and go deeper into what that means, having synarchy as part of the Pearl. It sounds super exciting to me.
Yeah, please do join us. They are amazing. And you know, I say this lightly, but you know, I'm laying out a whole body of teachings over the course of my life, and so I have only a limited time in each area. So this is probably the only time I will personally lead the Pearl retreat, online retreat. That many will happen after this one, but I may drop into them. But this is the first and last one I'm going to lead, because then I'll move on to something else. So I just say that so that I don't want you to miss the kind of, you know, the first ones are always the kind of, I don't know, they're special because they're pioneers, right? This is the first time we'll ever have done this as a global online retreat. So it's going to have a pioneering energy to it. And I wouldn't want anyone to miss that. And yeah, I guess.
I'll be there.
Yeah.
So please.
I look forward to meeting you in one of the chat rooms.
Yes, let's do that. So, well, you are all more than invited. Please join this group of pioneers.
Oh, and we said you guys, if you join through Luis's link, you can get an instant $25 discount. And I know it's not a huge amount, but every little piece makes a difference. So just good to remember to mention that.
Thank you so much. You remember everything. Richard, thank you so much. So the link is on the chat, $25, and then we'll share the link as well. But the most important is, I think this is the moment where we really need as many people as we can moving this energy of entropy and syntropy in the right direction. And I think being of service is really the key to what I'm understanding as well, what is making money with without mistake, is really relaxed, because when we are of service, that's what we get. I think that what is very important is that we all are of service in different ways. And I think that's the beauty of the Pearl, that we are going to learn how we can be of service in our own way. And that's priceless. So thank you so much, Richard.
Yeah, I mean, I can say this selflessly, like the more people we have on this retreat, the more we will put out that sustainable, selfless energy into the substructure of humanity and the planet. So I'm like, that's why I'm here. Like, I want to help the planet. And so get as many people as you can.
Let's do this.
Yeah.
Well, thank you again, Richard. It's always mind-blowing being with you, and so rich and blessed. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
thank
Luis.
you, everybody.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's just lovely to see you again, and I hope that, you know, I'll see you in there anyway. But
yes, in November. Do we have a date, by the way?
Yeah, the registration closes October 31st. So sign up before then. Okay, and then we start in November sometime. Do we know? Begin. There's a week of like just acclimatizing where you can kind of just begin to get you. I mean, if you book it, if you get it now, you can already begin the self-study course so that you get used to the materials, which is advisable actually, because the pace once you get going is like, you know, it's nice to be ahead of the curve. So I recommend beginning slowly now, and then when we come to November, you're kind of going to be in a good space for like when we launch into the actual rhythm. Yeah. Thank you. Okay. Thank you, everybody. Take care. Thanks, Luis.